Egypt, land of the Nile, cradle of civilization. Under the reign of the mighty Pharaoh Thutmose, Egypt blossomed. A golden age dawned, the Nile overflowed, nourishing the land. Harvests were bountiful, the people prospered, temples, monuments and pyramids rose, testaments to the Pharaoh's power and the gods' favour. Yet even in this era of prosperity, a shadow lurked. A darkness gathered on the horizon, threatening to engulf the light of Egypt. Her name was Nefrat. She was said to be born under a blood-red moon, a child of darkness itself, shrouded in mystery. From a young age, she displayed unsettling abilities. Her touch withered plants, her gaze soured milk. Animals cowered in her presence, sensing her dark energy. As she grew, so did her powers, twisting into something darker, more sinister. Nefrat became a sorceress of unparalleled might, her heart consumed by ambition and a lust for ultimate power. Deep in the desert, hidden beneath the sands of time, lay an abandoned temple. This temple, once a grand monument to the gods, now stood as a silent witness to the passage of centuries. Its walls, once adorned with vibrant murals and intricate carvings, were now eroded by the relentless winds and shifting sands. The temple's grandeur had faded, but its aura of mystery and danger remained intact. It was a place of ill omen, avoided by even the most intrepid explorers. Legends spoke of curses and restless spirits that haunted its halls. The few who dared to venture close often returned with tales of eerie sounds and ghostly apparitions. The temple's reputation as a place of doom and despair kept most people at bay, leaving it to the mercy of the desert. Here, amidst crumbling statues and faded hieroglyphs, Nefrat made her sanctuary. The statues, once proud and imposing, now lay in ruins, their features barely recognizable. The hieroglyphs, which once told stories of gods and pharaohs, were now faded and worn, their meanings lost to time. Yet for Nefrat, this desolate place was a haven, a refuge from the outside world where she could pursue her dark ambitions. The air crackled with dark energy. It was as if the very stones of the temple were infused with a malevolent force. The atmosphere was thick with an oppressive sense of dread, and the shadows seemed to move of their own accord. Nefrat could feel the power of the ancient magic that lingered in the air, and she drew strength from it. Strange whispers echoed through the crumbling halls. These whispers, barely audible, seemed to come from the very walls themselves. They spoke of forgotten secrets and ancient curses, their voices a constant reminder of the temple's dark past. Nefrat listened to these whispers, using them to guide her in her quest for power. It was here in this desolate wasteland that she delved deeper into forbidden magic, her heart set on a single terrifying goal: to usurp the throne of Egypt. Nefrat's studies were intense and all-consuming. She pored over ancient texts and performed dark rituals, seeking to unlock the secrets of the universe. Her ambition knew no bounds, and she was willing to sacrifice anything and anyone to achieve her goal. The temple, with its dark energy and ancient whispers, was the perfect place for her to hone her skills and plot her ascent to power. As she practiced her dark arts, the temple seemed to come alive, its ancient magic resonating with her own. Nefrat knew that she was destined for greatness, and she would stop at nothing to claim her rightful place as the ruler of Egypt. Nefrat began subtly, insidiously. She spread rumors, planted seeds of doubt everywhere. Her whispers, like venomous snakes, slithered through the palace corridors, worming their way into the hearts of the courtiers. She exploited their vanities, their jealousies, turning them against each other, and most importantly, against the pharaoh himself. Her influence, though unseen, was undeniable. The once harmonious court, now riddled with suspicion and paranoia, was ripe for the taking. Nefrat's ambition knew no bounds. She was a woman of unparalleled determination, driven by a desire for power that eclipsed all else. Her eyes gleamed with a fierce intensity, and her heart burned with a fire that could not be quenched. She was willing to do whatever it took to achieve her goals, no matter the cost. She sought allies in the most unlikely of places, the priesthood of Set, the god of chaos and darkness. These priests were feared and shunned by many, for their allegiance to Set marked them as agents of disorder and malevolence. Yet Nefrat saw an opportunity where others saw only danger. These priests, corrupted by power and seduced by Nefrat's promises, agreed to help her. They were men who had long since abandoned any pretense of piety, their hearts blackened by greed and ambition. Nefrat's words were like honey to their ears, sweet and irresistible, and they found themselves drawn into her web of deceit. They performed forbidden rituals, chanting incantations beneath the light of the blood moon. The air was thick with the scent of incense and the sound of their voices, rising and falling in a hypnotic rhythm. The blood moon cast an eerie glow over the temple, its crimson light reflecting off the polished stone walls. Their goal to summon ancient and terrible entities, dark forces that had been banished to the netherworld. These were beings of immense power, capable of wreaking havoc on the mortal realm. The priests believed that by bringing these entities into the world, they could harness their power and use it to further their own ends. This was a gamble, a dangerous game that threatened to unravel the fabric of reality itself. The rituals were fraught with peril, and the slightest mistake could have catastrophic consequences. Yet Nefrat and her allies pressed on, driven by their insatiable lust for power. They were willing to risk everything, even their own souls, in their quest for dominance. Unbeknownst to Nefrat, a glimmer of hope remained. Seneb, the pharaoh's trusted advisor, was a man of great wisdom and perception. He had long sensed a growing darkness in the kingdom, a creeping evil that chilled him to his core. When strange occurrences began to plague the palace, unexplained illnesses, accidents, and whispers of treachery, Seneb knew something was amiss. His investigation led him to the heart of the conspiracy, to the very doorstep of Nefrat's temple. As Nefrat's power grew, so too did the chaos. The once stable kingdom began to unravel at the seams, with every corner of the land feeling the weight of impending doom. Nefrat's ambitions knew no bounds, and his relentless pursuit of power brought about a series of catastrophic events that no one could have foreseen. The Nile, once a source of life, began to run red, its waters poisoned. This sacred river, which had nurtured the civilization for millennia, now carried the stench of decay. The lifeblood of Egypt, the Nile's transformation was a harbinger of the greater calamities to come. Fishermen who once thrived along its banks now found their nets empty, and the once bustling river trade came to a standstill. Crops withered in the fields. The fertile lands that had fed generations of Egyptians turned barren and unyielding. Farmers, who had once celebrated bountiful harvests, now faced starvation. The granaries, once overflowing with grain, stood empty, and the spectre of famine loomed large over the kingdom. Plague swept through the land, leaving despair and death in its wake. The once thriving villages became ghost towns as the disease spared no one. Rich and poor alike fell victim to the relentless plague, and the cries of the afflicted echoed through the desolate streets. Healers and priests were overwhelmed, unable to stem the tide of suffering that engulfed the land. The people, once prosperous and content, now lived in fear. Their daily lives, once filled with joy and purpose, were now overshadowed by uncertainty and dread. Families huddled together, seeking solace in each other's company, but finding little comfort in the face of such overwhelming adversity. The social fabric of Egypt began to fray as trust in leadership and the gods waned. They cried out to the gods for salvation, but their pleas seemed to fall on deaf ears. Temples that had once been centers of worship and hope now felt cold and empty. Priests performed rituals with increasing desperation, but the divine silence was deafening. The people's faith, once unshakable, began to waver as they questioned the very foundations of their beliefs. Egypt, once a beacon of light, teetered on the brink of collapse. The grandeur of its past seemed like a distant memory, overshadowed by the present turmoil. The majestic pyramids and temples stood as silent witnesses to the nation's decline, their stones bearing the weight of a civilization in crisis. As the darkness closed in, the future of Egypt hung in the balance, uncertain and fraught with peril. The time for subtlety was over. Nefrat, confident in her power, launched her coup. Her dark army, bolstered by the monstrous entities she had summoned, stormed the capital. The pharaoh's loyal soldiers, though outnumbered, fought with the courage of lions defending their pride. The clash was cataclysmic. The very earth trembled beneath the fury of the battle. It was a fight for the very soul of Egypt, a desperate struggle between light and darkness, order and chaos.